guess yesterday was just a fucking hour and a half shit show.
It was an hour and a half. We went through episode 32. Lost all the footage, so we're back to do it again right here, right now. So let's just jump right into it with the Week 15 recap. We had San Francisco on the road facing Seattle. This was an NFC West battle, and this one had a lot of playoff implications. We know coming into the game, Seattle had one of the better offenses in the league versus the 49ers, who have the best defense in the league. Given that, and they're starting a seventh-round rookie quarterback, I wasn't really expecting a lot of points in this game. There wasn't a lot of points in this game. 21-13 was the final score. I thought the difference in this game was Seattle had one turnover to San Francisco 0. The defense, as it has been all long, was a big problem for Seattle, allowing 170 yards on the ground. A big chunk of that was going to McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy was out there looking like a veteran with 17 to 26, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns. San Francisco getting the division win, locking up a playoff spot. Still fighting for the number 2, but definitely going to be in number 3 and no lower than that. What'd you think about this game?
That San Francisco defense, man, they're the real deal. I mean, I think Geno had good numbers still. I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but I mean, he's been wheeling and dealing all year long. It's just really how disappointing that Seattle defense is for them this year. They played great, I think, the first half of the season, but ever since then, it's just been a complete letdown. They're, giving away games at this point. I mean, they battled as well as they could with San Francisco. I think Brock Purdy, he's done a great job since he's had to step in. I think he's not getting enough credit, but he's also, he's kind of filling that Jimmy G role perfectly. He's having the same kind of stat lines game to game. And they just got weapons all over, mainly that defense. So the way they play, the fly around the football, how physical they are. I mean, I like their chances against anyone in this league with that defense. All they got to do, is keep pace, with the offense, scoring points consistently. And I think that's what I'm looking for more of them now that Purdy's in there, is be consistent on offense, put up as many points as you can, because if somehow your defense gives you a bad day in the playoffs for one game or 2 games, your offense is going to have to keep pace with the other offense, whether it's Dallas, whether it's Philly. I mean, hell, even the Vikings. But those top 2 for sure teams in Dallas and Philly will give them probably the most fits, I think, along the lines of their offense. But for me, it was just disappointing for Seattle. I mean, at one point we're thinking, they're going to be in the playoffs. And now it's just, it doesn't even look like that because Detroit's on a hot streak. I mean, Green Bay is not that far out of it, which is crazy to say. But, I mean, I don't know really if the Giants or Washington is going to give up that 6th and 7th seed at this point in the season. So a lot of things have to shake out still, but we'll see, if they can sneak back in there. I just don't like their chances anymore.
Right now it's 7-7. They just lost Tyler Lockett as well, so their chances right now are very slim. Their schedule's not the easiest either, finishing out this last month of the season. Next, we can move to Saturday, where we had Indianapolis on the road at Minnesota.
Boy.
And to start this game off, man, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Indy starts the game off with a big kick return, sets them up for a field goal. A block punt puts them up 10-0.
Yep.
A fumble by Dalvin puts them up 17-0. Eventually, they get all the way to 33-0 at halftime after a pick 6 from Kirk contributes to that lead. But you tell it from there. I don't want to take up all your time.
This game was this game was something else, bro. It's just the range of emotions that you could go through in a game. I mean, this tops all of them. I mean, first half, I'm already kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to settling in for the game, which I don't like to be. I like to, have my spot set up and ready to roll for kickoff. And I'm still, on the smoker, smoking chicken wings and everything, getting ready for the game for, food wise. And by the time I get settled into the game, it's 10-0 because, that blocked punt. And I'm not already, when I don't have a good sense of routine for the day, like my day's all thrown off. I'm not comfortable with the game situation. Like I don't get good, warm fuzzy feelings about the outcome. It's just I'm very superstitious that way. And so at that point, everything's going wrong. It continues to go wrong up until halftime. and I'm about just fed up with the season. I think I texted you. I said I'm retiring for the season, and like I was just done, bro. Like, I mean, and it was crazy because there's only what was it? I think one offensive touchdown that whole first half for Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't even like our defense. There were times during the game that they showed, what they've been showing all season long, but for the most part, they blitzed a little bit more. They, at least on one side of the field at all times, there seemed like at least one guy was pressing a little bit more. So there's minor adjustments going on, I think, and minor tweaks with this defense, which was nice to see. But at the same time, let's keep it real. Jonathan Taylor went out early in the game, didn't come back. You're facing an old washed-up quarterback in Matt Ryan, who's very bad now. And, this Indy offense is nothing to write home about. It's really, they have a very good defense, I think. I don't know what their rush defense or overall defense standing is, but I think they came into the game as the 11th overall pass defense. So, you get to the second half, I think what our offense was able to do in that second half, I really hope it's a sign of things to come, because they showed in that second half, more so than any other time this year, that I think for the first time this year, they've showed that they can go out there and score at will. And that's what makes this team very deadly. And that's what we've been saying coming into this season, was we have the capability to keep pace with, a Patrick Mahomes-led offense, or Josh Allen, or Joe Burrow, or, those top offenses. And I think if we're able to continue this going forward into the playoffs, like, teams need to watch out, because I think that makes us a real contender for sure. But I'm still on the fence, more leaning towards the side of pretender and frauds. I said it after the game. They're still frauds. Just because for me, it's like, I just, this game, even though it was the greatest comeback in NFL history or whatever you want to call it, it still didn't give me the good feeling. I just, you enjoy that kind of game as a fan, to see your team come back from 33 down and win a game like that. Like, that's, pure entertainment. That's, what sports is all about, is those highs and lows. But at the same time, what we've been going through this whole season up until this point, you can't feel good about having to come back from 33 down. I mean, this was a Dallas game 2.0. Like, and I think, I don't know what O'Connell went at halftime and said. I hope he really chewed them out, because I think that team needed a good ass chewing. I mean, O'Connell can't be the, hype guy all the time and praising you all the time and saying the right things all the time. At some point, you got to be a head coach and lay into your guys and make them wake up, because I think the way we started the game, it was just, Kirk tripping over Ed Ingram and just the same old clumsy shit that we were used to seeing sometimes from him. And man, it was just, I don't know. It was just one of those crazy games. And then you look at it also, we had two great defensive plays, scoop and scores that were, negated because they blew the whistle so soon. And like I've been saying, it's just the refs need to be held accountable. I think how they're able to skate by a whole game like that in other games throughout this season we've seen so far, where they don't have to answer for their mistakes or their mess ups. It's pathetic. I mean, they should at least be fined or suspended or something. I don't know what you got to do, but they got to be held to a higher standard, in my opinion, because it's just a lot of games, especially this year that we're watching, are just, there's so many egregious calls and egregious non-calls, and they have huge impacts on the games and the outcomes. So I'm tired of seeing that and having to watch it. But, hopefully it gets better in time for the playoffs. I'm not holding out hope for that, but that'd be something else if we have to watch playoff games come down to the refs blowing it for either team. But with this Indianapolis and Minnesota game, I rewatched the first half today, and I was just dumbfounded, like how that even happened. I can't even sit here it was almost like a dream watching that type of game because you don't ever see that happen, like a comeback like that. I mean, 39 points in the second half. Man, if we would have been doing this all year long, we might be a top 2 offense in the league. But, can this be sustainable for this team at this point in the year? I don't know. Like, O'Connell made it a point after the game saying in his press conference that it came to a point in the second half where he stopped thinking about the play calls and the play sheet and thinking about his playmakers. And I think that's a big key going forward is just get your playmakers the ball and not just Justin. I mean, the way you saw Cook used in this game, pass game and running game,
21 touches for 190.
That's what he needs to be doing. I'm not saying he even needs 190 yards each game, but like at least, I mean, if he can break 100 rushing and receiving combined, that's huge. If you can get him to have those type of numbers every game, because that opens it up more for JJ. But at the same time, we need to implement. I mean, you're looking at KJ have a huge breakout career game, 10 catches, 157 yards, touchdown. Like, it takes some pressure off of JJ a little bit. Obviously, he's our main guy, the main dog out there, but when you still got a guy like Thielen who's up there in age now and kind of showing his age, you still have him and KJ, though. You still got Hawkinson. You got Irv coming back. There's a lot of weapons on this team. We got to utilize them. We can't just force it to JJ every time and leave so many opportunities out there for other guys, because that's what makes this team very dangerous is the ability to have so many guys out there who can go make those plays. So that's just what I want to see going forward. I mean, it was a great win to, lock up the division this year as champs, but at the same time, we still got 2 tough road division games. We got a tough one against the Giants this weekend. I mean, season's not over. We're still battling for that 2 seed, and we definitely want that if we can't get the 1 seed. So we'll see how it goes going forward, but I definitely, it will be a major letdown going forward, or especially this Saturday, if we can't pick up where we left off.
That's always been my thing with you guys is that consistency. 39 points is probably out of the realm of possibility to do that week in and week out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think high 20s, low 30s, that's
20,
very feasible.
26
yeah, it's very feasible.
Plus per game. I think you can, if you get that per game, even as bad as this defense has been, you can win a majority of your games. And I mean, this defense has shown, even though there's major holes in it, and Donatel's, a big reason why they're not playing up to their standards. I think we got enough playmakers on this defense where we still come up in huge spots in the games with big plays, big turnovers. We're a very opportunistic defense. And if we can just, keep those minor adjustments and tweaks we saw Saturday and go forward and make a little bit even more maybe, this defense will give us a chance to win games for our offense. The offense has just got to be consistent. That's all it comes down to. Because the way our defense has played up until this point, I mean, it's not like there's a couple games where they've given up a bunch of points, but it's mainly been a lot of yardage and I would say more mediocre, average type points they've given up to most teams. But you got Dallas, you got obviously 24 to Philly. I'd have to go back and look at the schedule for the scores, but I mean, what it's come down to is, you can bitch and complain about our defense all you want. I'm in that majority, I think, as well. But our offense and O'Connell has not been consistent enough in this season to really just have all the blame be on the defense. The offense is too talented to not do more and keep it up. That's fair. Like we're late in the season and I think, I do think O'Connell's got some stuff in his back pocket yet that he hasn't obviously unleashed, but what we saw in the second half Saturday against the Colts, we got to, pick up where we left off there for the rest of the way and be consistent with it. But at the same time, you can't put your faith into that because you still got Kirk Cousins who, can be a major letdown at times. and we're just a team that we're not built like the Eagles or the Niners, who come out and fly around consistently and make it tough on a opposing team week in and week out. We have our ups and downs. We're more consistent along those lines of being up and down week to week than we are anything else. Which sucks, but it is what it is. I mean, you got to call it for what it is, and that's what it is. I love this team to death, but at the same time, got to be real, keep it real, and I always want to see more consistency from this offense, and at this point, I got to trust my defense for what it is.
Yeah, we kind of have the same problems. Looking for consistency, not allowing the playmakers to make plays, and we both have a coach that we're not too fond of.
Yeah.
You're on opposite sides of the ball, though. I mean, for us, everything that went wrong did go wrong. For you guys, you were able to pull it out. For us, we just ran out of time. For us, it was going to keep going wrong for us in this game. 4th and 1 inside our own 10. We failed that conversion. And then Justin Tucker misses a field goal before halftime. We go into the half down 6-3. Come out of the half. Tyler Huntley throws a pick. DeMarcus Robinson fumbles on the next possession. And just for the cherry on top, Justin Tucker gets a field goal blocked. So we lose this game 3-13 in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson gets his first home win as a Cleveland Brown. Happy ending. We know he likes those. Not so much, though, for Baltimore. We have a tough schedule to finish out this season. We're going to need to get one of these last 3 games to assure us a playoff spot. It's not going to be easy with Lamar coming back or not coming back.
Yep.
In this game, though, I did mention we have some coaching or disagreements with our coaching staff. Greg Roman, I think it's time to go, because not only is your scheme not allowing us for our playmakers, or not only is your scheme not allowing our playmakers to make plays.
Yep.
We averaged almost 10 yards a carry against the Cleveland Browns, but we want to throw 30 times with the backup quarterback and only rush 28 times with our running backs. And we're a running team. So this is definitely something that I did not understand at all. And I think it's time that we address you in the offseason. You're either going to have to change the way you are, or you're going to have to get out of here, man.
I mean, that's, I think it's a fair point. When Harbaugh has been around how long now with you guys?
Quite some time.
And if he wants to keep that going, I think he's going to have to really look in the mirror and address his coaching staff this offseason. Because I think when you look at it, I think Lamar has done a lot to make Greg Roman look good when he's out there. Because when he's not out there, things don't look as pretty. And even when Lamar's out there, it might not even be that pretty, but he's doing things that the backups cannot do. So... And I just think that goes to show, like, where, when we come to talk about Lamar's contract and everything like that, you got to he's going to go toe-to-toe with the Ravens organization, because he can make a valid point with, well, what have you guys done for me to help me? And I think the Ravens organization has truly failed him up until this point. Like, they haven't given him no help on the outside. I mean... You got 2 great running backs who complement Lamar and what he can do. But you need to, you take Jalen Hurts away and you put Lamar in that Philly offense, and that Philly team is winning the Super Bowl.
It's just as good.
Because Lamar's a step above Jalen. He's on the track to being elite.
Right.
But, we're going to have to see how this year finishes out and the playoffs finish out, because, he's got a lot of expectations on his shoulders now because you're 13-1 up until this point. So, but I think, with Lamar, it's been, he's got to be frustrated as all hell with what they've given him to work with. Because, clearly it's, Mark Andrews is his go-to guy. He trusts him the most. And he doesn't trust anyone really on the outside. And that's, we talk about his accuracy issues, this and that, but I really think when it comes down to it and the way this season's playing out, he doesn't have 1 or 2 guys on the outside he can actually fully trust. He just, he does his best he can with them, and we're getting the more so average results. And I think if things don't change this offseason, man, we're looking at the Ravens probably being more of an average team going forward for however long. So
I agree. things need to change for sure. You mentioned Jalen Hurts. He had a touchdown run where he went right up the middle. Nobody was within 10 yards of him either direction. So you can't tell me that although he has improved, he's improved that much to where the coaching staff is saying we have to completely take away the pass and ignore the running ability, especially in that game where he ended up with 3 rushing touchdowns. I think if we tweak our system a little bit, Lamar can have that same kind of success.
For sure. And Lamar he's one of the elite guys in the NFL. We always talk about, we want to see more accuracy out of him, but at the same time, bro, if you give him a Devontae Adams, you give him an A.J. Brown, you give him a Justin Jefferson, watch this man just tear shit up. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
We've seen it. We saw A.J. Brown go over there and help Jalen immensely. We saw Diggs go over there and help Josh Allen. So
you're not getting that. Lamar's not getting that with Bateman. He's not getting that with Duvernay. He's not,
his best receiver's been Willie Snead, probably.
You're not getting that with 36-year-old Deshaun Jackson. Like, and I think a move like in the midseason picking up Deshaun Jackson, that's got to annoy the fan base, because it's like we see you are trying to help, but you're being very cheap with it, and you're being like very kind of nonchalant about it. Like, we can just throw anybody out there and it will work.
Right.
So that's the most frustrating thing as a fan of a team when you see those types of moves, because it's like, you're not fooling anybody. Like, this Deshaun Jackson is a big name because of how great of his career has been up until this point. But at this point, he's 36 years old. He might have, resemblance of the speed he once had, but he's not the top-notch speed anymore.
Right.
He's injury-prone, always pulling hamstrings and whatnot. Like, what is this guy going to do? Come in and do? He's not going to put us over the top at this point in the season to get us to the Super Bowl. Like, I hate moves like that. Because it's like, what are you trying? I mean, you clearly are seeing that we need help, but you're going to the bottom of the barrel to find it.
That's what you do. Right?
Like you're going to the bargain bin. So, like, miss me with all that. Like, I know you're going to have to even pay Lamar a hefty payday and whatnot. And I don't know how that's going to work out with roster construction and everything when it comes to that. But at least this offseason, because you're going to franchise Lamar, you got to get him at least one big name for a receiver, like who's proven that can do it.
Yeah. At least a B+ kind of guy, like a DJ Chark or something, at least. Like somebody. Maybe like a 6'1" receiver, big body, good hands, can play physical. The kind of guy that we have right now, they are talented, but they just don't fit what we're trying to do right now.
Right.
And for four or five guys to be the same, and only for 1 or 2 of them to be on the field at the time at one time. So, I mean, I don't know. We got to switch up a lot this offseason. Miami's on the road against Buffalo, our last Saturday game, and they've been playing very well against the Bills this season. First game, they did take the W at home in a close one. This one, they were up 8 in the fourth quarter until that snow started to fall. And on the other side of things, that's why you go get Josh Allen. He's got the arm to whip it through the cold weather. He gets a touchdown, 2-point conversion, tie the game up, and then he leads a game-winning drive, capped off with a field goal as time expires to take the victory, 32-29 at home. Miami is going on the plane, probably happily getting back down to some sunshine, but unfortunately taking 3 L's in a row now to San Francisco, Los Angeles Chargers, and now Buffalo. They don't have an easy game next week against Green Bay, who seems to be finding their groove. Tua had an okay game, 17-30, but I'd probably like to see him more around 66%, 20 or 30 or so. But all in all, Miami played okay. The run game got going. Tyreek Hill had an okay game. Waddle had a big game, 3 catches for over 100 yards. Both him and Tyreek had a touchdown. But ultimately, I think the Bills show why they're one of the top teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I think the Bills, no matter what, are going to be a tough out for anyone. I think it's Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Kansas City is the main 3 teams on the AFC side that who are going to be duking it out to represent that conference in the Super Bowl. But with this game, I mean, I don't know, man. Tua's, at one point in the season, probably the first half, I was starting to get really high on Tua. And it's kind of, I've been shot back down to earth these past 3 games, realizing like, hey, he's kind of at the point where like these next 3 games you got to show a lot, because I don't have the confidence in you anymore that I once had this season. And I think this offseason, there's going to be questions surrounding him even more. I mean, we're looking at, probably, just like Jalen Hurts had this past offseason, like just constant questions of if you can actually do this at the NFL level. I don't know if you take even one of those guys away, like Tyreek away, he's not doing much. I mean, yeah, he'd have Waddle, but you take Tyreek away and he looks pretty pedestrian. And he already doesn't have a big arm to throw it deep. I mean, we already know that. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think he's got the right coach with McDaniel, but at the same time, I don't know. I have a bad taste in my mouth with Miami team right now, and I don't have the faith in them to do anything in the playoffs. I think Buffalo's just fine. The only thing with Buffalo I'd like to see is more of a consistent running game, not just Josh Allen throwing and running.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Because I think when they get to the playoffs, like you rematch with Kansas City or you play Cincinnati, that's only going to work for so long before they figure it out and they shut that pass game down. So I don't know. It was just,
I don't know about Kansas City shutting anybody's pass game
no.
down,
Well, with their defense, no. But like Cincinnati, the way they're playing,
Cincinnati for sure.
I think they can. I think Cincinnati is really the team to watch out for in the AFC side. Hardly anybody's talking about them, and
yeah,
they're looking even better than last year.
Everybody has a weakness, but their weakness is the least noticeable.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
which might be Eli Apple.
You hate that dude. We're gonna have to talk about this on camera.
Oh man, no, but it was Miami. Overall they did well battling Buffalo, especially in cold ass weather where they're not used to playing. So I guess props to them in a sense, but at the same time, it just wasn't enough to get it done. I do sense a big turnaround though after these 3 games that they've lost, and I do think they put a good win together against Green Bay. But obviously we'll get to that a little later.
Moving on, we have Kansas City at Houston. A game that we kind of disrespected, but the Texans definitely gave the Chiefs a run for their money. They dragged them into overtime, but they just weren't able to pull it out at the end. Mahomes was crazy in this one. I'll let you talk about the numbers later, but the Chiefs as a team 7 times consecutively have won the AFC West now. However, their defense is a struggle. They gave up 24 points to Houston, and they gave up 28 last week to Denver. 2 teams that are at the bottom of the barrel, 2 teams that are eliminated from the playoffs, 2 teams that have been trash all season. So that's something that they have to address in the playoffs, especially if you're going to run into teams like Miami, Cincinnati, Buffalo. If you play Baltimore, don't worry about it. You can play your second stringers. I promise we won't score more than 13 on you. Outside of that, though, Houston keep putting up a fight. They do it every week. But Mahomes just worked his magic in this one. Kansas City got out of here by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, I think, I'm not saying Miami took this game lightly or Kansas City took this game lightly, but I think, they've known they're going back to the playoffs. Like I just feel like this was a game they kind of overlooked.
What you call it? A hat and t-shirt game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they were playing for the division title. Obviously, they secured that. It was a little, too close for comfort, but at the same time, I do think the Kansas City team might have just overlooked Houston a little bit and didn't play their best game and up to their standards. But when you look at Mahomes, man, 36-41, like that's who does that, bro? Like
that's ridiculous.
This man is something else. I don't ever feel confident if I have to put my money against him. Like,
I think he had about 20 completions in a row or some shit like that. Like, bro, he was going crazy.
That's the thing. When you have a quarterback like him on your team, Kansas City's never out of it.
Never.
Like, they'll never be. And that's the thing. Like
never. 13 seconds. Bro. Right when they were down against Houston in the playoffs a couple years ago, he was able to make that big comeback. They're never out of it.
He might, when it's all said and done, bro, and his career is done, he might be the new GOAT.
I'm all for it, man.
I don't know, how long that's going to take but between him and Andy Reid, those two guys, bro, they don't get enough credit, I believe. Like, especially Andy Reid. We can talk about Bill Belichick all the time, but you see what's going on out there without Tom Brady.
Right.
And yeah, we could say probably the same thing with, I mean, Andy Reid has had he has a lot of good quarterbacks.
For sure.
But at the same time, I mean, he's probably one of the most consistent coaches year to year. Mm-hmm. You know you're getting a winning team out of him. Mm-hmm. And if they're not winning team, they're probably 500. He's not doing much worse than that. And so for me, that's an all-time great coach right there. Because when you can do that especially when every team each year is different, the rosters, like, that's pretty special. And I mean, what are 7 in a row now division titles? Shit's crazy.
5 of those on Patrick Mahomes, 2 on Alex Smith.
I mean, this is going to be what? If he goes this year.
1 without Tyreek Hill.
If Kansas City goes to the AFC Championship this year, is that 5 in a row?
I think 5, yeah.
For Pat?
Yeah.
That's his whole career.
To start his whole career.
It seems like he's been in the league for 10 years, bro.
We're taking it for granted.
It got to slow it down a little bit. I mean, because, man, it's crazy how that shit happens. You get a player who comes in the league and 5 years go by and he's done so much and like, damn, it went by in a blink of an eye and I didn't even get to enjoy none of it. Like, I got to go wait till the documentaries come out in 20 years.
Oh, shit.
But I mean, yeah, this Kansas City team, like, I can never count them out. They can put together. They've had throughout this past 7 years when they've winning the division. They've had games like this, and they've always prevailed and come out on top. So I'm not worried about this type of game from them. Like they know what they know what they're capable of. They can put up a stinker like this and move forward. At least they came out with the W. That's all that matters is wins and losses. They got the W. I think they're gonna take these last 3 games a little more serious, and I mean they're still fighting for that number 1 seed too between Buffalo. So they want to secure home field advantage throughout the playoffs because they play really well there at Arrowhead. So and that stadium's always rocking, especially in the playoffs. And I mean whether it's Seattle or whether it's Kansas City and Cincinnati or Kansas City and Buffalo or Buffalo and Cincy, I mean we're looking at 3 potential great matchups in the AFC Championship if that's what it comes down to.
Those are probably the 3 juggernauts right now. I don't feel disrespected that you didn't include us. We do not belong in that conversation right now. Philly at Chicago. A closer game than most people would have thought, but we both thought that this was going to be a close one. In this one, Justin Fields made history with his 95 rush yards. He became one of 3 quarterbacks to reach or exceed 1,000 rush yards in a season, joining Lamar Jackson and the great Michael Vick. However, the Bears have now lost 7 straight, their longest streak since 2002, where they lost 8 straight. And on the other side, Jalen Hurts did throw 300 pass yards, but he did have 2 interceptions to go along with 0 touchdown passes. But he did his damage on the ground. We mentioned it a little bit earlier with 3 rushing touchdowns. He is now 1 away from tying Cam Newton to have the single-season rush record for quarterback in a season. Now, we understand that these records are an extra game. The Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Justin Jefferson. But it doesn't take away from what these guys are doing. These guys have been dominating these seasons.
People always put the asterisk because of the extra game, whatever. But you know what?
It used to go. It was 14 games before.
Right.
You guys are breaking
exactly.
These records.
So it's like miss me with that. It's still hard as hell to do what they're doing. Like you can't take that away from them. So if I don't. Miss me with that whole, but it was 1 extra game shit. Like, I don't care. Like, they're getting paid to put up big numbers, and that's what they're doing, and they're doing it at,
historic rates.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with this Philly-Chicago game, Chicago's going to be a tough team next year. If they have a great offseason, this is going to be a big offseason for this new GM.
For sure.
Ryan Pace. I think they're going to have probably the most cap space out of any team. This is going to be his make or break time. And it's only his second, going to be his, it's going to be the end of his first year as GM. So I think this is his make or break time, because when you have all that cap space and you have so many holes in your roster, you got to go out and do it, because you got a quarterback who's going to put you in the win column.
That's the thing. They're in a unique position where they're going to suck, have a top 10 pick, but they have the quarterback in place.
Yeah.
And it's not just, we got him last year, we're going to see what he can do. This guy can play.
For me, obviously, we're going to dive into it more when we get into our, off-season draft stuff. But if they have a top 5 pick, you're not drafting a quarterback. You either got, I think, for me personally, you probably have to go defense with that team the way it is laid out.
Yep, I would agree.
And then you can find, if you draft well, you can find gems later in the draft, wherever you're slotted, for playmakers on the offensive side. But
I mean,
and you're gonna have plenty of options in free agency as well.
Right.
So with that cap space, I'm not too worried about, because you're gonna be able to live best of both worlds, off season wise, having free agency money and drafting. So that's a scary team going forward if they do it right.
Yeah.
And with Philly, man, they got to capitalize this season if they really want a Super Bowl, because after the season's up, they're gonna take a couple steps backwards going forward next year. And however, they'll still be good, but what I'm saying is,
I know what you're saying.
They have so many free agents,
Right.
especially on the defensive side.
They're gonna lose a lot.
Yeah, they're gonna. It's not gonna be a rebuild or anything, but they're gonna have to patch some things up, and this is the year for them to take advantage and win the Super Bowl if they truly believe, they can.
I think they realize that.
Yeah, and
with the moves they made,
the Sue and Linval signings. It's clear as day. They know, and Howie Roseman, he deserves an award for the stuff he's done with that roster,
yeah,
the depth and everything. But this is going forward, though, the last 3 games and into the playoffs. We're gonna see what Jalen Hurts is made of, and Nick Sirianni, because these are 2 guys who, Jalen Hurts is his second year? Is this his second year? It feels like
second year starting.
Second year starting. His third year overall, though.
Yep.
Okay, so I think he hasn't been in these big games before. They've had an easy schedule this year, but he hasn't been. They made the playoffs last year, but that was kind of fluky in my opinion. Just the NFC East the way it was, but him and Sirianni are going to have pressure on him throughout the playoffs. Multiple big games coming up. Schedule's been easy, and I don't know, man. When you come to, I'd feel a little bit more nervous if they were in the AFC,
right,
playing those type of teams, because the NFC, you got after the first 3 or 4 teams maybe in the playoff seeding. There's not many great teams, I think, in my opinion, but it's just one of those things with Philly is they're clearly the best team record-wise in the NFC. But I don't know if I feel comfortable with them being the number 1 seed. I really like the 49ers overall a little bit more, even though I like Philly's depth more than most teams. It's just, I think if San Fran stays healthy, their defense is capable of shutting this Jalen Hurts offense down. And I think the same could be said with 49ers playing Dallas as well. Mm-hmm. And even us. I just truly feel like the Niners are the NFC team to beat, in my opinion. But there wasn't much else for this Philly-Chicago game that really, interested me. I had Philly winning. I predicted a bigger win than what they, won by 5 points or whatever. But, it's games. They've had multiple games like this, I think, this year. Indianapolis being one of them, where they've let these poorest teams really play them harder than what we'd expect.
Right.
And so that's kind of what makes me a little nervous about this Philly team, because it's not like they go out there and they just blow teams out. They like to sustain drives. They like to be methodical in their approach with how they beat you on offense. But they've gotten, I'm not going to say lucky, but they've had luck on their side where it comes to turnover differential and being great on defense with getting stops in key situations, getting turnovers. And once again, just the overall depth that team has on both sides of the ball. They're able to overcome a lot in that sense of, how their roster's made up.
Atlanta at New Orleans. We had New Orleans playing a little bit of musical chairs at quarterback. Andy Dalton threw for 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill got 1.
Mm-hmm.
Kamara got his game going on the ground a little bit. But it really came down to the rookie quarterback on the other side for the Atlanta Falcons. He got his first start, Desmond Ridder, that is. He went 13 to 26, 97 pass yards. Had a couple interceptions that will not show up on the stat sheet. But, man, this guy did not play well. He struggled as a rookie. Not an easy game coming out there playing against the Saint defense as your first test, but you are coming off a bye week, so you did have a little bit more time to prepare, but not what we wanted to see from you coming out of here.
This game, I mean, I tuned in for a couple plays, I think. I saw Taysom Hill's touchdown pass, which was a very nice ball he threw. But, I mean, I don't know, man. I get why they sat Mariota for Ridder. He was your first quarterback, or he was your quarterback selection this year. You want to get him work, and that's supposedly your guy going forward. But he don't look like it.
Tough. After this loss, both teams are now 5-9, only 1 game back of Tampa Bay.
I know, and
that's tough.
I don't know, man. It's brutal to even. That NFC South is just so brutal to watch. And keep pace with. It's. But I mean, there's not much to say about it. It wasn't a pointless, meaningless game, but I don't know. Atlanta they have so many. Even when they're fully healthy, it's just disappointing watching them because they don't give Pitts the ball, which is a damn shame. And then they constantly, obviously rely on Cordero Patterson, but he can only do so much for that team. And New Orleans, they've just been, New Orleans going forward, they're in
bad shape.
Bad shape. It's not looking pretty.
Bad quarterback situation. Kamara might not be coming back. You're over at cap. Defense is getting old. Your coach is not great.
Nope. It's just it's bad for both these
tough.
teams, bro. And I don't know when it's going to be, any better.
Atlanta too. Atlanta's just been so disappointed over these past few years, but we can talk about that another day. Detroit was on the road at New York facing the Jets, and as expected, the Jets defense showed up pretty well and held this Detroit offense under wraps for the most part. It came down to a big mistake where Brock Wright converted a 51-yard touchdown on 4th and 1 to give Detroit the lead with under 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson did convert a 4th and 18 to give his team a chance to get a field goal to tie the game up and send it to overtime, but the field goal was unsuccessful and the Jets fall 20-17. Now 7-7 on the season, both them and Detroit. Detroit, though, winners of 6 out of their last 7. The Jets, they are spiraling out of control right now.
Yeah.
Quarterback situation is not the best right now. Wilson was only in there because their third-string quarterback, Mike White, had broken ribs and was unable to play. So this is some nonsense going on in New York right now, and it looks like the season is in deep, deep shit right now.
Yeah, I picked the Jets in this one just because, I didn't know if Mike White was going to be able to go or not since we picked early in the week. But I just thought the defense was going to be too much for Jared Goff in that offense, even though they have been playing well. But I was wrong. I mean, it was a very close game, obviously, but Dan Campbell and his staff, they just have this Detroit team playing really well right now, and they're a team to watch out for. I mean, they're super close to getting to that playoff, seeding, and hats off to them because what they've been able to do after that 1-6 start has been nothing short of remarkable.
Very impressive.
So hats off to them. And with the Jets, I think they said today that Zach Wilson's starting Thursday night too. So yeah, bad luck all around for the Jets.
That helps my decision. Next, we have Pittsburgh at Carolina. Panthers found themselves down 21-7 in this game, but Pittsburgh did give them some opportunities to come back, but on Carolina's last 3 scoring possessions, they only got 3 field goals each, no touchdowns, and that was pretty much the difference coming down in these last final possessions in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell Trubisky held his own. He was very accurate, very efficient. no turnovers, under 200 yards, no fumbles either. So kind of what we expect from him. Not a big game. We're not asking him to do a lot, but Pittsburgh won this one on the strength of their defense, obviously. What else do we expect from Pittsburgh? Great defense.
That's what they do.
And the rushing attack really killed Carolina. They outrushed them 45 attempts to 16, and we know that's been Carolina's strength these past couple weeks, especially after they got rid of CMC. If you're only going to rush the ball 16 times, that means Sam Darnold has the ball a lot, which means good things for Pittsburgh. So that's what we got in this game, 24-16. And that 500 record for Tomlin stays alive.
Yeah, I think he's very capable of getting, that 500 this year. I mean, anything's possible when you got TJ Watt in the lineup for them. I mean, he's the bread and butter for that team.
Yes, sir.
And I do commend Carolina, for kind of somewhat, I guess, turning their season around in some sense, however you want to call it, after that Matt Rule firing.
Yeah.
And the way Steve Wilkes has got those guys to buy into what he's, selling over there. And, for me, he might deserve a shot to be hired as the full-time head coach going forward, but you definitely need to work on the roster construction if that's the case, because I don't think Steve Wilkes is a bad coach, and it's been proven this year the way he's gotten the guys to play for him, and that's. I mean, at one point we were thinking this Carolina season is going to be resemblance of what Houston's record is.
Yeah, we did.
So, I mean, what they've been able to do to turn it around somewhat is very commendable, and the Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin leading them. That's why I picked that side of the game. Other than that, I didn't really tune into this game because it was not on my radar, I guess. Two teams were kind of eliminated already. So
yeah, I hear that.
It wasn't much for me to watch out for, but, I do highly respect Mike Tomlin and his career, and I think, if he's able to get that 500 record this year, that's huge for his legacy going forward.
What an accomplishment, man. With this,
yeah,
man.
Especially, I mean, there's the way that team is constructed. It's like, how can you do any better?
I've been saying all season, I hope that he gets it. But obviously, they have 8 losses already. They have to play us again. I sure hope we don't lose to Pittsburgh later on in the season. So,
yeah,
unfortunately,
we're double-edged sword.
For sure. Hopefully, we do see that downfall. I'm sorry, Mike. Next, we have your boys from Dallas in Florida taking on Jacksonville. It was 24-10 in this one, where Trevor Lawrence throws an interception to the secondary. Jacksonville's second unforced turnover of the day. The first was Etienne running into his offensive lineman. Dallas converted that interception into a field goal, going up 27-10. At this point, I was going to text you and be like, shit, I jinxed them, man. I should have never said they were going to beat Dallas. Should have just let Dallas be Dallas and do Dallas things, but Dallas was Dallas and did Dallas things. A quick strike from Jacksonville made this one 27-17. A pick from Dak converted a touchdown. Jacksonville converted that into a touchdown, 27-24. And then a punt from Dallas that Jacksonville converted into another touchdown, giving them a 31-27 lead. But then Dallas does have a 7-minute drive, a touchdown from Dak to Noah Brown that gives them the lead, 34-31. Trevor Lawrence makes a great play, escapes the pocket, gets into the open field, fumbles the ball. Dallas regains possession of the football. Jacksonville has all 3 timeouts. They force a 3-and-out. Get a chance, go down, get a field goal, 34-34. We go to overtime. In overtime, a deflected pass from Dak Prescott ends up in the hands of a Jacksonville defender. We go pick 6, and Dallas goes back to Texas with that sad Jordan meme on their face.
There's a lot of reasons to be worried about this Dallas team going forward. They really thought they were something after that ass whooping they put on the Vikings. And I don't have faith in this Dallas team like some do. Like, especially come playoff time. They're choke artists in the playoffs. You could say that about the Vikings too if you want. But
Dallas are literally stepbrothers.
Dallas is, I mean, they got a great defense this year. But their Achilles heel is what?
Dak and their coaching staff.
Yep. Bar none. Like, those 2 factors, like...
And it's becoming the defense, honestly. It's been pretty shaky as of late.
They have been shaky. 'Cause I don't know what.
And I can see why they would want Odell. I know they did put up 34, but I don't really like that number 2 option right now outside of CD. Those guys are decent, but come playoff time, I don't know if they're going to be able to be successful.
Well, and the thing is, like, Dak makes too many boneheaded mistakes. Like,
that's ultimately the key. Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you're gonna make that OBJ signing, come playoff time. More power to you, but I think that just puts a bad omen on you even more. So, I don't know. I can't see this Dallas team being able to go to Philly in a championship environment and winning a game like that. I just don't. Like, I don't know. It's just, yeah. I guess you like you said, Spider-Man meme, Vikings, Dallas Cowboys. Like, we're like, yeah, we're so similar in many ways. It's sickening.
Maybe that's why you hate them, because deep down you hate yourself.
Oh man,
I could go sit over there. You can lay down on the couch. We can hash this out.
No, but it was nice to see Jacksonville beat them. I really think, like I said coming into this week, like Dougie P knows all about Dallas. Like, he knows how to coach against them. He's from the Philly area, before. So, Trevor Lawrence, he's getting better and better each week.
Yes, sir.
They're just doing really good things over there in Jacksonville. I think that they are, they're an up and coming team. I think next year they're going to be even better and be in the hunt for, more in the hunt for the playoffs than they are this year. But I don't know. It was just this game was a big letdown by Dallas. I don't think this was a game you could afford to lose at this point in the season going into the playoffs when you're fighting for seeding and you're still battling with Philly. And I know Philly technically hasn't won the division yet, but they'll wrap it up after this weekend because what is Dallas going to do against Philly? Like, unless they play out of their minds, I don't see them really putting up a fight against Philly. It'll be somewhat close, I think, but
yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts is questionable, but
that's the big thing. If he's not able to play, then it kind of, I would say, in fairness, leans towards Dallas more.
But evens the playing field a little bit, but yeah, I would like to see that game. I mean, one game we got one backup quarterback on Dallas' side, and now if we're going to see Gardner Minshew, I'd like to see a fully healthy quarterback game. Maybe we'll get it in the playoffs.
Yeah,
But you did mention a big letdown. Cincinnati at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was leading 17-0 until Cincinnati got a field goal right before the half to make it 17-3. 4 turnovers in the second half for the Buccaneers really killed them in this game. 2 on the ground, 2 in the air. Cincinnati took those and made full advantage of them. 34-23 victory for Cincinnati. They get out of here. And now they are the 3rd seed in the AFC. Tampa Bay still leading the NFC South at 6-8. Putrid. What do you think about this one here?
Putrid as hell for Tampa. I mean, God, I don't even know what to. If any, I mean, out of all the teams in the NFC South and the way that division is this year, it's just like no one should be coming out of that division into the playoffs. Like, it's just bad. That's a bad look.
Bad business, man.
But it says a lot for Cincinnati being able to, weather the storm, being down 17-0, come back and win the game the way they did. They're a team to be reckoned with, and, I mean, they're going to do some damage in the playoffs. So,
to me, they look like the most dangerous team in the AFC right now. Kansas City has troubles with their defense. Buffalo has trouble with their one-dimensional offense, and now their pass rush and run defense aren't that great.
Right.
Run defense never has been. So I have my eye on Cincinnati. You mentioned it. They're the sleeper, I think, but for me, they're really not. Yep. Obviously, they got to the big game last year. We mentioned, Tom might need some help in Tampa Bay a time or two this year. I think if he decided to go back home like the rumors say, Bill Belichick would welcome him back with open arms because what he saw from Mac Jones probably took a year off of his life this weekend. 13-31, 112 yards. And the handoff to Ramondre Stevenson at the end of the game, that's thrown back to Jacoby Myers. It was thrown back to Mac Jones, but wasn't thrown back to Mac Jones. It was actually thrown back to Chandler Jones.
Oh, my God.
He ends up putting Mac Jones in the turf, taking this back for a touchdown, giving the Raiders a 30-24 victory on the road in New England. This one was sad, bro.
This is an ugly game. Credit Las Vegas for winning the way they did, but obviously they were gifted that game by Jacoby Myers because that was the most boneheaded play I've ever seen. You're running a play with 3 seconds on the clock in the fourth quarter. It's all tied up. Just take a knee and go to fucking overtime. Like, you guys are two piss poor teams. Just battle it out in overtime.
Show why.
Like, this was a joke.
You would have to think that has to be the game plan, especially when your quarterback is 112 yards on 13 of 31 in the game.
What are you? I thought Bill was smarter than that.
You know, he's one of those guys who's getting up there in age. Maybe it's time.
I think that's why he might want Tom back, though, is to help him coach as well as play.
This isn't your typical New England team. There's a lot of stupid penalties. That play, for example, we would have never seen that with Tom Brady.
There's only so much more Bill Belichick can do, and he is up there in age. How much longer do you really want to go and try to? I mean, all the success you've had with Tom and those teams in New England, why don't you just ride off in the sunset and enjoy your retirement? Because I know you can't be enjoying this day-to-day life.
And you have to look at it, man. What is the future in the AFC? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow?
New England's time, when Tom left, New England's time was done.
It's tough. Cam Newton, that was a bad season.
And I love it because I loved it when he left New England finally, because I knew, like, in my eyes, he was a big, big reason why Bill won those Super Bowls. But I also loved it because there's so many fucking fake New England fans who just jumped on ship because of,
for sure,
Tom, and after his third Super Bowl win. This is my team. This is my team. New England till I die. How is life now? How is life now?
It's never going to get better again.
You stick with that team. Do not jump back to any other team. Wear the red and blue with pride.
You have to understand that is one of the most unique situations you'll ever have in sports. Arguably the best tight end, arguably the best coach, arguably the best quarterback. Robert Kraft's getting up there in age. This is going to be over pretty quick here.
Yeah.
Next, we had Arizona at Denver, a game of two backup quarterbacks. We had Colt McCoy versus Ripon. Colt McCoy ends up getting concussed in this game, and I felt concussed every time I tuned into this one. My guy Trace McSorley did come in, make an appearance, and he will start next week. You know, former Baltimore Raven, former Penn State legend. As we expected, though, Denver did get the W. I think it was 24-15 in this one. If not, it was 25-14. But kind of what we expected, man. This Denver defense was going to be able to get this team over the top against whoever was behind center for this Arizona team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this game was just a joke and a half.
With no punchline.
There ain't much to say about it.
That's fine by me.
I said from jump, I'm not picking Arizona as long as I live until fucking Kyler Murray's off the team. I just don't like him and respect him. And I mean, dude, like, Kingsbury's such a bad coach. He's terrible.
He needs to follow Matt Rule out of here.
I
will say Denver put up 24 this week and 28 last week, so maybe the offense is turning around a little bit.
I don't know. It's a little too late, though.
For sure.
I just think, at this point, who cares about either of these teams?
Let's move on.
Except for the diehards, obviously, with those teams. That's got to suck.
Tough year all around. Both expected
when you have to watch a full season of football and your team wins 3 to 5 games, like, that's a long fucking season.
I'd probably check out after a certain point. Just watch the good games. Wouldn't you?
I mean, I've sat through multiple.
I can't remember the last time we were that bad. So,
I mean, the Ponder years were pretty rough. I mean, the year after the 2009 with first year with Favre, then he came back. Like, that was a bad year.
Yeah.
I've sat through multiple losing seasons. and it's not fun. You just wish it to be over.
Jason Campbell.
But I definitely still watch every game. It's just a lot of times I'm like, I can't wait for this game to be over, and then I tune into the better ones. But yeah, it's rough.
Fair enough. Next, we have Tennessee at the Los Angeles Chargers. A very tough fought game. This is what the Tennessee Titans do. This is how they play. They make these things very ugly. Justin Herbert didn't have the greatest game, but ultimately I think him and this offense, they're starting to click again. They're starting to get healthy, and they were just a little bit too much for this Tennessee team. 17-14, they get the win at home. They are now, I think, the 6th seed in the AFC, especially after that New England win. So that was, or New England loss. So that was big for this Chargers team this weekend. Tennessee now 7-7, and with the Jacksonville W, they got the Jaguars nipping at their heels right now.
Yeah, I think if I'm Tennessee, I'm a little worried.
You should be,
because who does Tennessee play this week? Houston.
Yeah, Derrick Henry will go crazy.
So they should win that game. But, I mean, if Jacksonville could pull off a win against the Jets, I mean, shoot. These last 2 weeks are going to be interesting for them.
Yep.
But I think, I'm pretty excited with where the Chargers are at. It's been a disappointing season for them, I think, up to this point. Obviously, like, for all of us, I think, because coming into the season, we thought they were going to be pretty loaded and duking it out with the Chiefs all year long. But they're starting to get healthy. They're starting to click a little bit. Brandon Staley obviously still worries me as coach there, but I think if they can get in the playoffs, be healthy and stuff, I mean, they can battle it out with a lot of these teams. Like, I agree. I don't think they're going to be favored especially over those top 3 AFC teams, but they'll definitely give them a run for their money.
Yeah.
And they could pull out a victory off, at least one of those teams. So they're a team to watch out for come playoff time.
If you have that guy behind center, you're always going to have a chance.
Exactly.
Herbert has now started his first 3 seasons with 4,000 pass yards, the only quarterback who's done that. So, I mean, he's in the rock, you got a chance. He had 5,000 last year, I think. So.
Right, he's in the conversation. I mean, he's not Mahomes level, but he's in the conversation with Burrow and Allen and those guys. Like, he's right
he's
up
in
there.
The 4. Yeah. 4 horsemen. We'll finish off these last 2 weeks with our primetime games. We had Sunday Night Football, New York Giants on the road at Washington. These teams are very evenly matched. Obviously, we know they tied 2020 in overtime a few weeks ago. Looked like we were headed that way again. It was 20-12. Washington was driving. They had the ball on their own one. Brian Robinson runs it in for a touchdown, but Terry McLaurin is lined up offsides. Washington gets hit with an illegal formation penalty, backs them up. They do have a chance. Heineke throws the ball into the end zone. Questionable pass interference call. I know you mentioned those refs earlier.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones where they might need to be held accountable for.
Really? Because that was pass interference.
That was pass interference. He was there early, and it definitely affected the wide receiver and his ability to catch the ball. I mean, that is the rule right there. You gotta call that, especially in that moment in the game. I mean, but anyway, Giants get out of here 20-12. They take the 6th seed while Washington falls to 7. Outside of that call, which you can touch on as well. What'd you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I won't dive back into the refs or anything, but yeah, this game, I mean, those are 2 egregious calls and non-calls.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's the type of shit you don't want refs impacting. That this late in the game, that come. I mean, you're in the red zone about to score, and then you have the refs just screw you both times. Like, that sucks. But I think overall, I think the Giants just pretty much smothered. The Giants' defense smothered that offense all game long.
Thibodeau was a monster.
And, I had the Giants winning this one. I just, even when they tied 2020 the other week, Washington had to battle back against the Giants.
Right. And
that kind of just didn't, to me, that felt like they kind of got lucky that game with coming back and being able to tie it up.
Yeah.
I think that, they're too even. They're pretty much the same team, really, like the way the rosters are made up. I mean, obviously, I'd take the Giants' run game over the Washington's, but I'll take Heineke over Daniel Jones, and McLaurin over like Kenny Galladay, and I mean, you can go
Washington's receivers,
you can go tit for tat
O-line,
like that back and forth on what you would
for sure.
I don't know why, but I'd rather watch Washington in the playoffs than the Giants. Something about the Giants seems like they're going to be a major letdown come playoff time. This game was interesting, for the simple fact it had a lot at stake. But I mean, you get what you get with these two teams. There's a lot of flaws with both of their rosters and how they're made up, but they can be fun teams when they have games like this against evenly matched opponents. But I don't know. There's not much to say. We're going to see how they can hold up in the playoffs in a few weeks and leave it at that.
Our Monday Night Football game, we had the Los Angeles Rams and Baby Brett and Baker Mayfield on the road against Green Bay and Brett's replacement and Aaron Rodgers. We had the Packers with a 2-score lead going into the fourth, and they were able to hold on. Rams just don't have it this year. Green Bay surprisingly now at 6-8 and definitely right in the hunt in the NFC to get that 7th seed. I know you said you wanted Detroit in there. You want to see Green Bay in there at all?
For me, I said Detroit in there and I would be hella nervous if we have to play them first round because they are capable of taking us out. I firmly believe that. But just the way they've turned their season around and been playing lately, like I feel like they're more deserving of at least a 7th seed than Washington or the Giants. That's just the way I view it at this point in the season. Green Bay, they don't deserve to sniff the playoffs. They're still a bad team.
Why?
They're still a bad team, bro.
They
beat the 3-11 Bears, and then they turn around and beat the 4-10 Rams. Give me a break. Those 2 wins don't even count. And you only beat the Rams by 12 points, and I don't remember the Bears score, but it wasn't a blowout by any means. Come on, bro.
They're doing the same thing Detroit's doing. They're winning
Detroit's
games.
a much better team than Green Bay. The only reason people would say Green Bay is because they got Aaron Rodgers. Detroit beat Green Bay this year.
I know.
Come on. I don't know. Detroit, they can, after all they've gone through, they can make the playoffs and I'll be fine. Green Bay, no. I don't want to see you in the playoffs because we'll show you why you're not coming into the playoffs in 2 weeks.
That's that. We'll move on to Week 16 picks. Week 16, Thursday Night Football. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 6-8 on the road at the New York Jets at 7-7. Right now, Jacksonville, I guess you could say, is a team on the rise, facing off against the Jets, who are on a downfall. Right now, both teams are on the outside looking in. With Zach Wilson being the quarterback, which you mentioned to me earlier, going into Week 16, that definitely helps my decision. I'm going to have to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars in this one on the road.
Yeah, I'd like to take the Jags, but I'm giving the Jets one more chance.
You love that defense over there,
I'm giving them one more chance. It comes down to the defense. I just don't. Jacksonville on the road in cold weather, New Jersey. I'll take Zach Wilson in this one, even though I don't like it, but
fair enough.
I just think I don't know. I can see Jacksonville winning this game, but something's telling me the Jets, and that's the way I'm leaning, so I'm going to go with it.
If it's going to be anything in New York like it was in Minnesota and how it will be in Minnesota this week, Jacksonville might have a tough time moving the football or even playing football because it's going to get cold as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, we have a majority of our games, only 3 on Sunday. For Christmas Eve, though, Atlanta on the road for Baltimore. 5-9, facing a 9-5 team. Don't know if we'll get Lamar back, but I hope we do. Even if we do, I think this game is going to feature heavy rush attacks for both sides. Atlanta has been the top team, if not the top team. They've been top 3-5 in this league or this year in rushing the football. Baltimore, we obviously know that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, though, it's going to come down to a little bit of defense, and I think our defense is far superior than the Falcons' defense. So we're going to have a nice little bounce-back W in Baltimore.
Yeah, I predict a good bounce-back win here for Baltimore. I don't see Atlanta traveling well to Baltimore and playing well, especially with Desmond Ridder at quarterback. So give me Baltimore all the way here.
That's a big factor as well. Desmond Ridder looked very bad in his rookie game or his rookie debut. Baltimore has a very good defense, so that's going to be a big factor in this one. Next game, we have Detroit on the road at Carolina. We have 7-7 at 5-9. Again, both teams on the outside looking in. Carolina, after their coaching change, has been playing better. Detroit, on the defensive side, made a coaching change, and they've been playing better on that side as well. Yeah. The offense all season has been among the tops in the league. I think they're going to show Carolina why and take another victory on the road.
Yeah, I got Detroit in this one. It's just the way they've been playing. I'll take that over the way Carolina's been playing, even though they have been playing better. I love the way this Detroit team's playing as of late, and I think they're very hungry to get into the playoffs.
I agree. They're winners of 6 out of their last 7. They're definitely on a hot streak, and I think they're going to roll over Carolina, honestly, even though that defense is good in Carolina. But this offense, I think, is really feeling themselves after these past few weeks. Buffalo at 11-3 on the road at Chicago, 3-11. I think this is a very tough stretch for Chicago coming off their last game at Philly as well. They do some things very well. Running the ball is one of them. I think that is something that the Bills have deficiencies in on the defensive side, is stopping that run. Chicago's going to keep it closer than we expected, similar to the Philly game, but ultimately Buffalo will probably pull away like we expected Philly to do in this one.
Yeah, I think this is fairly simple. Bears won't sniff a win here. It's the Bills all the way. It may be closer than we think, but
Bears are opportunistic, and Josh Allen does not take care of the ball like we'd like him to. So
no, but yeah, I'll give Chicago a little bit more credit than I normally would, but I guess it would come down to Buffalo being more one-dimensional on offense. I just don't see. I mean, the thing I don't like about Chicago is they're very, very limited in passing. They cannot pass the ball. So I think if the Bills' defense can do a good job of keying in on Justin Fields,
so weird,
they'll stomp them. I don't think that now if Justin Fields can get loose and do damage on the ground, that's how it becomes close.
Which is expected. I know Buffalo has great linebackers and they're good at spying quarterbacks, but Justin Fields has been on another level this year. So
for sure.
I expect him to stay on track with what he's been doing. Next, we have New Orleans at 5-9, at Cleveland 6-8. Both teams right now on the outside looking in as well, but unlike Jacksonville, unlike Detroit, probably two teams that don't have hopes of getting into the playoffs. And although New Orleans is 5-9, Tampa Bay is 6-8. They got swept by Tampa Bay, so for them to climb that hill is probably unrealistic. Cleveland, probably not your year, but next year I think you'll actually will be okay. For this game, I am going to go with the Saints with the upset on the road.
I got the Browns in this one. I think Deshaun has his best game of the season so far since he's been back. They're at home. I don't like the Saints when they travel. I just never have. They're playing in a colder weather atmosphere this week. I don't like anything about it for the Saints team, so give me the Browns.
Moving on, we have Seattle at 7-7 on the road at Kansas City, 11-3. It's probably going to be a little chilly. Seattle, high-powered offense. I expect a lot of points in this game because both of these defenses are very putrid. However, I do have Kansas City winning this game ultimately.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit easier, though, for Kansas City to take down the Seattle team. I think it won't be I'm not going to say it's going to be a complete blowout, but with Tyler Lockett being out, you can key in on DK and take him away.
Yep.
And Geno's very limited after that. And the only way you can put up more points is if Kenneth Walker has a big game, which he's capable of doing against his Chiefs defense, but I just don't see it happening at a loud Arrowhead Stadium, colder weather. Yeah, give me the Chiefs in this one by at least 2 touchdowns.
Giants at Minnesota. Minnesota coming off a historic win. Giants coming off a big emotional win in the division. Having the 6th seed right now, they're going to want to keep that momentum going. Minnesota, obviously with the news of Philadelphia, They probably sniffing that number 1 seed right now, thinking that if they can keep win out this season, they have a chance of getting that spot. That being the case, I do have the Vikings winning this game.
Man, you've loved us all year, haven't you?
I picked you a lot. I think you guys are a good team.
I got Minnesota. I'm still nervous about this game, but I think if they can pick up where they left off second half this past Saturday, and they do what they were doing that half, the whole game, this should be a blowout. But the way the Giants defense plays, I won't go that far and say that. I think they'll give us a run for our money. And even against a Daniel Jones-led offense, our defense is going to have to step it up. So
that's for sure. When Saquon was out there, he was the best player on the field last week against Washington. That's probably going to be the case this week as well. You do have some playmakers on your defense, but that guy's just an elite talent in this league.
I mean,
that's going to be the key to the
right.
game.
And the saving grace is they don't have really anyone on the outside who can torch us. We will be probably the first team this year who makes Kenny Golladay relevant. I'm gonna throw that out there, but
they've had so much talent out there that they've let go or just isn't able to play.
But I think it's fair to say the Vikings by at least 10, hopefully.
You think this is gonna be closer than the KC game? I feel like that game is gonna be a little closer.
No, ours will be closer than KC Seattle.
Yeah. Now that it's on the fucking camera, it's probably going to be 34-7 Kansas City. 23-20 Minnesota Giants. Cincinnati at New England. Cincinnati got Tom last week. They'll go back to his homeland and take down the Patriots this week. They're 10-4. They're the 3 seed in the East. After this one, they will be 11-4.
Yeah, not much else needs to be said. The way New England ended that game last week, man, I'm all the way off them.
I would like to say that, but Bill's still over there, man. You can win 2 out of these last 3 and sneak into that 7 seed, but this definitely is not going to be that game that you take that W.
No.
Houston at 1-12-1 at Tennessee 7-7. Derrick Henry, as we know, he torments the AFC South. We probably think he's having a down season this year, but I looked at it today. He has 1,300 yards. So I think he's going to put about 200 and bump that up to 15. I got Tennessee all day against Houston.
I agree. I think he has a big game. I think Tennessee has a bounce back game coming off that Chargers loss. So, yeah, I mean, I think Houston played as well as they could last week against Kansas City, but I don't think they can keep that momentum up.
We have Washington at 7-6-1 on the road at San Francisco, 10-4. San Francisco clinched a playoff spot last week, currently sitting at 3rd in the NFC. Washington losing to New York on Sunday night, currently sitting at 7th in the NFC. This is going to be a very interesting battle. Could be a potential first-round matchup. I do have San Francisco showing Washington what real defense looks like, though. And until Chase Young gets back, I don't know if they're going to be able to match what the San Francisco defense can do on the front line.
No, this game is going to tell me a lot about Washington.
It will, for sure.
I have San Francisco.
I don't think Ron Rivera is ready for this one.
No, I have San Francisco steamrolling them. I just don't know because, I mean, they've had a commendable season up until this point, but I think this is the wake up call that they're gonna get. Like, for me, with San Francisco, I think people are starting to really realize how good they are. But, you know, the way they started the season and kind of up until a couple weeks ago, a lot of people were sleeping on them and not realizing how good they were and that defense is. And that defense will punch you right in the fucking mouth. And that's what Washington's going to get this Sunday. Or Saturday, I'm sorry.
Philly at 13-1 on the road at Dallas, 10-4. Set to be the game of the week, but we are unsure if Philly will have their starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts, MVP, leading candidate right now. If not, they'll have to throw Gardner Minshew out there, who I think is more than capable of being successful in this league, especially with the talent around him, offensive line, offensive weapons included. The defense is solid enough to hold Dallas under wraps and give him a chance to win this game.
Yeah.
And I think that will be the case ultimately. Philly will get the road, whether it's Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew on the road in this one.
Yeah, I think if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, I would probably lean more towards Dallas just because they're at home. They're looking for, a revenge type game after that loss they took to him earlier in the season. So I'd lean a little bit more that way if it was, Jalen Hurts ruled out. But I just can't go against Philly. I got to pick Philly in this one. I just think they're the much better team.
You just can't pick Dallas.
I've been picking Dallas.
I know they're good too.
I've been trying to make up for my week 2 mistake. But I just can't go against Philly in this one. I just think, whether we like to admit it or not, like Philly is still capable of losing that 1 seed to the Vikings or San Fran.
Yep.
And I think they have that on their mind, and they don't want to lose grasp of that because they know having the whole NFC go through Philly is a tough task. So I think that's what they are looking. That's the motivation they have going into this weekend. It's their arch rival Dallas, so you got 2 things driving you this week to get the W, and I think they pull it off.
I believe they only have to win this game to get the 1 seed, given that they already beat you.
Right.
So. Yeah, maybe put all your chips to the middle of the table on this one and rest your guys up.
Because the thing is also what I was reading is if they can win this game, then they got a dilemma next week because they play the Saints. And you know how they hold the Saints first round pick next year. Do you sit your starters against them and risk losing a better pick by them beating you? Mm-hmm. Or do you play your starters and beat them and keep that pick as a top 10, top 5 pick?
Well, given the situation that you mentioned earlier and a lot of their players being free agents next year, you might want a better player.
Right.
So if you can win this game, you can do whatever you want to do.
Right.
It's a very important game. Philly, they're a versatile team, man. They can do it with the run, Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts. They can do it with the pass. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown.
That's the whole thing with this Philly-Dallas game. That's what it comes down to. I think that Philly is built to beat that Dallas defense. I don't think Dallas's offense is built to beat a defense like Philly's.
No, that's a fair point, especially at the wide receiver position right now.
Yeah. They
probably need another guy in there. And their offensive line can't put together a Christmas album like the Eagles can. Las Vegas on the road at 6-8 against Pittsburgh at 6-8. Both teams, again, on the outside looking in. Pittsburgh, obviously. Well, they're probably not looking to do it, but we're looking for them to get that 500 record.
Yeah.
I do think they will win this game against Vegas. I think they got pretty lucky last week in their win against New England.
Oh, yeah.
They have 11 close games this year, and they've won 4 of them. So they're right on the cusp of being a really good team, this Raiders team is, but they just haven't been able to put it together, whether that be the first year under a new coach, quarterback issues, Darren Waller and Renfro going out doesn't help either, but I do have Pittsburgh in this game.
I have them too. I like Pittsburgh. That's a home game. It's prime time. Look, when you get these southern warm weather teams and Vegas is a dome team just like Arizona because it's hot ass southwest of the United States. I mean, I'm not saying that's a huge factor, but it does play a factor with, especially this late in the season with colder weather and the outdoors. So, I mean, I like Tomlin over Josh McDaniels. Mm-hmm. I like Pittsburgh's defense matched up against this banged up Vegas offense. The only question is my worry comes, with the Pittsburgh offense. Can they do enough?
For sure.
And I'm going to roll the dice and go with them that they can this week. And that's just it's me part of me hoping to see Tomlin get that 500.
Yeah. Vegas, Atlanta, New Orleans, all warm weather teams going to a cold state this week. Our first game Sunday, we have a cold state team traveling to Miami.
Yep.
Green Bay at 6-8 on the road at the Dolphins, 8-6. Dolphins losers of 3 in a row. Green Bay turning it around as of late. This is going to be one of the better games of the weekend, in my estimation. I do think Tua is going to have a nice little bounce back game. This Green Bay defense has not been living up to what we thought they were going to be in the offseason. But Rodgers smells blood in the water, man. I think he's going for this one. Miami's not a superior opponent to the point where I feel like they're going to dominate Green Bay. So if you give Rodgers a chance, I'm going to go with him.
Yeah. Well, that's a valid point. But at the same time, I got Miami in this one. I just think they've lost 3 in a row. They know they have to show something. What better opportunity to do it than do it against Aaron Rodgers and that Packers team that's been so good for so long? Like, this is that first test that Tua has to go out there and do something. And I don't know if this Packers defense can match up with Tyreek and Waddle all game long.
That's fair. I did call Waddle Eric Waddle, which I was thinking of Eric Weddle, but I did mean Jalen Waddle earlier.
I think with Green Bay coming on as of late and Christian Watson being their pretty much go-to playmaker, they released Sammy Watkins. I mean, there's only so much this Packer team can do. They're very limited. And I'll roll the dice with Mike McDaniel over Matt LaFleur.
That's fair. This game, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. We have Denver at 4-10 on the road at LA Rams 4-10. Both teams out of the playoffs. That is the only game where we have both teams that are out of playoff contention.
Yep.
And I do have, for 2 weeks in a row, to my surprise and yours, Denver winning a football game.
I do too.
Shit.
I just can't pick the Rams, bro. Like, I can't do
Denver's
it.
defense is serious.
That's what's making me pick them, especially in a game like this against another shitty team. Like, I think they pull it off. There's not much else that needs to be said other than that.
And Baker drops a Christmas miracle down your chimney. What a career for that guy. Tampa Bay 6-8, leaders of the NFC South on the road at Arizona 4-10, a team that was just eliminated from the playoffs by the aforementioned Denver Broncos. I do have Tampa Bay pulling this one out against a third-string quarterback for the Cardinals. But, man, could their schedule be any easier going down here?
Bro, it's not, I mean, it's not going to be a pretty game, though.
It won't be.
But I do have Tampa Bay winning this one. It ain't going to be pretty by any means. Just, I don't know, bro.
They just don't deserve it. The NFC South does not deserve it, man.
They don't. It's frustrating as hell that one of them gets to go.
Our last game, Monday Night Football. We have the Los Angeles Chargers on the road at the Indianapolis Colts. After the Chargers win last week, they are now sitting at the 6th seed in the AFC. After the Colts blunder, Matt Ryan is probably thinking, why me? I do have the Chargers winning this game. They've been playing decent as of late. Their last game wasn't anything to, look twice at. Only 17 points against a good Tennessee team, but I think they're finally starting to get a little bit healthy.
Yeah.
And they're doing it at the right time. So I do have the Chargers over the Colts in this one.
I have the Chargers as well. Jonathan Taylor being out for the year doesn't bode well for this offense. I don't know. You can only really hang your hat on your defense, and that only goes so far when your offense can't put up points.
Yep.
So give me the Chargers all day. I think this is one of those kind of games that gets you right heading into the playoffs, and you start to feel good about yourself and confident.
Yep. Anything else on these before we move on?
No, I think I'm good.
Let's get to Gravediggers. So as it sits, Houston, Chicago, Green Bay, Carolina, Washington, Jacksonville, Denver, New Orleans, Vegas, Detroit, the Rams, Indy, Arizona, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland have all been eliminated from playoff contention. In our eyes, who's the next team we're adding to the list?
Well, after the loss they're going to take this weekend in Baltimore, I got to go with Atlanta Falcons.
I'm a fan of that.
I think I think we already got a couple teams up there that are going to make the playoffs. So we're not going to have a perfect board for Gravediggers. That's what I'm thinking.
There's probably two.
Like,
probably both picked by me.
I think Atlanta should be a safe pick, I think, because unless something crazy happens and Ritter plays out of his mind and gets a W this weekend, which I don't see happening, but if he does, and then you get Tampa Bay to possibly lose Arizona, I mean, it's going to be.
Wow.
I don't know how the way this thing shake out in the NFC South still could be crazy, but I just don't see a team led by Desmond Ritter getting into the playoffs. That would be such a bad look. And as a 4 seed, like, terrible.
For what I've been saying about our Baltimore offense and how much we run the ball and are very limited in the pass game, I would feel very uncomfortable if Atlanta got in the playoffs having their heavy rush attack and 93 pass yards from Desmond Ritter last game. I mean,
yeah,
not something you like to see. We mentioned them not being able to get Kyle Pitts incorporated in the offense. Hopefully that's something that changes next year. If they get him and Calvin Ridley back along with Drake London, that's a nice little trio that you have going forward.
Bro, isn't Calvin Ridley part of the Jaguars?
Did they trade him? They did trade him.
Jaguars are going to be good next year.
Jaguars are going to be really good next year. Well, you don't have him, but you do have a good rushing attack that's been top 3, top 5 in the league so far. You found a nice little young running back in Algier. So you do have some things to look forward to next season. The defense isn't going to be great. It really has never been great. You had an okay season where you went to the Super Bowl, but outside of that, that's something I really like to see this franchise address as well.
Yeah.
It's usually just been a high-power offense.
Yeah.
Address the other side of the football. It's going to help out a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if this Arthur Smith is the answer for head coach.
I don't think so either.
Like, you don't hear enough about him, which makes me worried. And they kind of just are standing pat this whole time he's been head coach. So
the fact that I thought Arthur Smith was the GM says enough.
Yeah. So let's give Atlanta the boot, and we got 2 more weeks of Gravedigger picks,
yes,
and we're gonna, reconvene at the end of the season and see how correct we were.
Right now, looking at the teams remaining, it's pretty tough to call it.
I know
that Atlanta pick is tough. There's probably another team on the board, maybe.
This week will help us out a lot, I think.
We'll figure out a lot after this week for sure. But for now, that'll do it. Yesterday, obviously, technical difficulties. So today we had to give a 2-in-1 episode.
Yep.
Been here a little longer than expected, but it's all good. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, man. I think I'm good. It's gonna be an interesting week. These next 3 weeks are gonna be crazy.
This is crunch time. This is gonna be fun, man.
It is. This is the fun part of the year,
yes,
really.
Sir.
Like when we start really getting a good grasp on this playoff seeding, and then, man, that week leading up to the first round is gonna be bonkers.
We're funny, man. First 4 weeks are fun because we get to see what these teams look like after a long off season. Next 4 weeks are fun because, okay, new coaches, new systems. Yeah. Now we get to see what they look like with each other. The next 4 weeks are fun for this reason because the weather's changing or some stupid shit.
And then the first couple weeks of off season's fun because
so this is the best weekend ever. Every week,
I know. Hey, that's football, bro.
That's the beauty of it. Man.
It's fun. It's just the most fun sport, at least in my eyes, to watch and keep up with. So
we'd love to see all these guys healthy. We'd love to see no elbow injury from Josh Allen and Von Miller be out there. But if that's the case, then we know Buffalo's probably the best team and they're going to win the championship. With it how it is now, there's 6-7 teams that can legit win the title. So it's a lot more fun to watch it that way.
Well, and then when you compare like football to other sports, bro, like this is the one sport that legit has like 17 games on the schedule. We don't have to sit through 162 like baseball, 82 or whatever like basketball. think that's like the same number for hockey. It's just like with those, if you're doing something like this and keeping up with those sports like the whole year, I mean, you got every other night is a game to recap and preview, and like I mean, stat wise, it's crazy. I mean, this is like you get one game a week, and each game means something.
A lot.
So it's a lot every week to week it's just crazy how things can turn out, and you're not expecting certain things. And obviously football is a very violent sport. You get a lot of injuries each year. I don't know, man. It's just there's something about football that just makes it the greatest sport.
It's up there. My favorite sport is on the television right now. The greatest sport is on the television right now, and that is baloncesto, basketball. But I've been up for 16 hours. My words are starting to not make sense. So if you want to get out of here,
yeah, let's do it.
We appreciate y'all. Peace.